Well, we continue our coverage of honoring the life of Notre Dame coach Lou Holtz. Over the past 24 hours, we've had countless tributes come pouring in via statements and interviews, many of them from former players like the man I'm pleased to be joined with right now, Chris Zorich, two-time All-American College Football Hall of Famer, one of only a handful of Hall of Famers that Coach Holtz coached here at Notre Dame. Chris, first of all, my condolences, and I'd just like to open the floor to you and curious just what the emotions and thoughts have been like for you of Coach Holtz over the last 24 hours.
You know, it's like losing a parent, right? Losing a friend. But unfortunately, you know, we knew that he went to hospice, and it's one of those situations where you know it's going to happen, but you hope that it won't, right? You know, so when you hear the news, you just hope, I mean, and I know family was there, and that's the important thing, right? Is that making sure that he was comfortable in his last days. I think about when his wife Beth passed away, and I remember going to the funeral, and literally he was standing. I mean, there had to be 1,000 people there, and he was just standing there. And it's like, wow, like that's like it was just amazing to me, right? And I'm sure he was obviously going through some rough stuff, but that's the image that I have of him. I mean, yeah, he was kind of frail and everything, but you knew when it was important that he would stand up and be there. And I'm sure that's how his family felt about kind of his last days. But, you know, it's hard, and you can only chuckle, you know, of all the crazy stories you've heard and the things that people don't know, or the new stories that I'm hearing about that are just amazing. And you think about really what his legacy is going to be, and it's what you're finding out is it's not just the games that he won.
Sure.
Right. It's all these life lessons that he had a chance to teach not only his players, but you know the fans and folks in the community.
You mentioned the news stories. I know I've heard some in the last 24 hours. I'm curious what you've heard in the last day or two that reminds you of Coach that maybe you didn't know before.
Actually, just had lunch with Mike Brown, the first and only black leprechaun at Notre Dame, and he was telling me a story about. So he wasn't here when Holtz was here. Yeah. I think he came in. Mike came in Bob Davis' first or second year or something like that. So out of the blue, he gets a letter from South Carolina football program, opens it up, and it's Coach Holtz congratulating him on being the first black leprechaun at Notre Dame. I mean, he's at South Carolina right now, right? I mean, you know, so it's stories like that. There was one, this didn't happen recently, but I ran into this kid about 3 months ago who in grade school told his mom, hey, I want to go to Notre Dame. She was like, okay. I'm like, who do you know there? She's like, well, the only person I know is Lou Holtz. So the kid wrote a letter to Lou Holtz, like in grammar school, and Coach Holtz wrote back and said, you know, you have to work hard and dedication and all the community service, everything. The years go by, about every year he writes Coach Holtz. He gets in, graduates from Notre Dame, 10, 15 years later, they're at an appearance. He walks up to Holtz and says, you may not remember me, but, and he brings out this letter and he goes, Pete Byrne. And the kid's like, you remember? I mean, it's just like, he wasn't even one of his players.
Yeah.
Yet, and this is something that no one knows. I mean, I didn't know about this till this kid told me the story. I'm like, wow. I mean, those are the stories that people can relate to and resonate. I mean, you know, only a handful of us have a chance to play football for him, right? But being able to experience or listen to one of his speeches and go, I know that, I remember that, man, those are the good times. Yeah, I mean, and that's really what I think about when I think about Coach Holtz.
There's no doubt he touched a lot of lives. He's known by most people for his coaching. What kind of coach was he?
I mean, he was hard. And I have this wonderful photo of him in my office, in my home, of me coming off the sideline, and his arms are up in the air, and I call that's my Lou Holtz loves me photo, but he's not, he's yelling at me. But I mean, he was hard and demanding, but what we didn't realize when I was 18 years old, that he was given these life lessons, right? So he talked about trust, love, commitment. On my national championship ring is trust, love, commitment. He talked about that the first meeting, my first team meeting as a freshman. I'm 18 going, I don't love this guy. You know, what are you talking about? But it's over the time that you're there for the 4 years, you understand what commitment means. You understand what trust is. these are life lessons. I mean, they had nothing to do with X's and O's. These were the times that when you have your own family, when you're coaching your own team, when you're managing your own business, when you're the CEO, take over a company, these are the things that you learned from a guy who weighed like a $105 soaking wet that had a lisp.
It's funny that you mentioned that. I was going to ask you maybe what lesson from Holtz that you found to be the most poignant over the course of your life, and perhaps it was trust, love, commitment.
It really was. I mean, you're talking about, you want to extend that to family, you know, a spouse, loved ones, friends. My college roommate, I met freshman year, Tim Ryan, offensive lineman from Kansas City. Nothing in relation to a kid from the south side of Chicago who's of two races. Like, how are they connected? We're connected. He's my best friend. I'm his best friend. I mean, it's amazing what this university, and let alone what Coach Holtz not only did for me, but did for a lot of those guys on the team.
What did he do for you?
How much time we got?
Yeah, all the time you want, man.
You know, it's funny. I mean, I'll start off by saying, so my high school, Chicago Vocational, is right off the Skyway. So those of you that are familiar with the area, you go into Chicago, it's like a $20 toll or something like that now. So my high school's right there. It's basically 90 miles from the campus of Notre Dame. So being recruited by Notre Dame, one of the assistant coaches comes up to the school, how would you like to attend Notre Dame? I said, sir, I would love to, but my mom doesn't like to fly. Now, mind you, I live a mile away from the school. So, son, what are you talking about? Your mom doesn't like to fly. I said, well, there's no way my mom would fly to France to see me play. What? I'm sure he's looking on the sheet going, what's this kid's SAT score? But I say that because I knew nothing of Notre Dame. Took a visit, obviously, fell in love. But when you talk about changing, like, when I was growing up, I had a severe stuttering problem, speech impediment. I didn't talk to people. My mom and I read to each other. Grew up in a single family, no father around. When Holtz found this out, he sent me to a speech therapist at St. Mary's. So I met with her 3 or 4 times a week. It was able to overcome that through things I learned with her. No mention of this. I have a podcast during COVID. He's my guest. We're about to sign off, talk about all these great things. Oh, that's championship, everything else. I said, Coach, before you leave, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out to get the speech therapist at St. Mary's. Within a second, he would start laughing. Like, what's up? He's like, well, it was so hard. We had to petition the NCAA to do that because it would have been considered like a fringe benefit that wasn't, and I'm like, what? Dude, tears are like flowing, right? I'm like, you know, but it's like situations like that changed my life. And it wasn't about winning a ring. I mean, if you can't speak, what can you do? So there's a kicker, like, you know, I'm sitting at the club, like, well, you know, coach is kind of crazy sometimes. Maybe he knew I was going to be a star, and he couldn't have his college football Hall of Famer, his All-American, you know, speaking to a crowd and having the speech impediment. I was a freshman holding dummies and holding bags in practice. He didn't know how it was going to turn out. So, yeah. I mean, those are the things that I remember. You know, not yelling at me, not kicking me out of practice, or you know, hey, you missed the block here. You know, you didn't make the tackle there. It's those things that he didn't have to do that. Yeah. I'm in College Football Hall of Fame because of him. I won a national championship because I'm talking about all this other stuff. Doesn't compare to something like that, you know, and that's, sorry about that, but.
No, it's all good.
I mean, he changed my life in 1,000 different ways. And people say, oh, well, it's football. It really wasn't a football thing.
Yeah.
It was a life thing. And, you know, imagine if you can't talk to people, if you can't put a sentence together, how far are you going? And, you know, I was in a public school. They had a speech therapist, no matter like once a month. I mean, budget cuts, everything else. I come here, he identifies something, and he gets a solution. And oh, by the way, in the meantime, changed my life. So, man, come on, man. I didn't want to cry, man. What the heck, man?
It just speaks to how powerful of a man
I'm a tough guy,
right?
man.
Right? Well, you
Used
said
to be
that.
tough. Used
You're
to
a
be.
tough guy. I mean, you were a two-time All-American, played in the National Football League. He is, on his best day, half your size. But there was nobody bigger on the field, was there?
Oh, you got no idea. He grabbed my helmet numerous times. He kicked me out of practice. I was telling somebody a story about how, you know, my high school coach was very disciplined. And, I mean, he told me not to take any crap from anybody, so I didn't. So I'm going up against people like Chuck Lanza, you know, All-American, and, you know, all these great players, and I'm holding my own. And, you know, sometimes if you got the wrong colored jersey in practice, you know, we're going at it. And he had to pull me aside after like the 5th or 6th time he kicked me out of practice and say, look, I need you. And so literally that photo that I have in my office with, you know, me in front of him, his hands in the air, are probably saying he's, you know, I'm probably got kicked out of a game, and he's like, Chris, I need you, man. You know, and so, you know, it's those things you remember, but, you know, my memory is different than, you know, another player's memory. And I'm sure they have great stories too. You know, this is just, you know, one look into kind of my experience with him. And, you know, it's just, I mean, again, changed my life.
We'll let you exhale a little bit. Give me a Coach Holtz story that makes you laugh still to this day. A happy one. Or a funny one, perhaps.
There were many. The one I remember probably more, and I don't want to say funny, or how about this, something I didn't know. So about 15 years ago, one of my buddies comes up to me and goes, hey man, I didn't know you cried after the Texas A&M game. And I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about, bro? He's like, go read Coach Holtz's book. Well, needless to say, I did not read the book, right? So I go back, get the book, and I read it, and I'm like blown away. So apparently, to explain the situation, I'm on the practice squad going against our first team offensive linemen, trying to make them better. We get down to the Cotton Bowl, we lose the game. And after the game, I'm sobbing in my locker because I felt like I contributed to the loss. Like I didn't practice hard enough. I didn't help them enough. Dude, you're like the prep team nose guard. You're holding a bag, bro. Like really? I'm 18. I think, you know, what I didn't know was, and this is what Lou Holtz said in this book, I'm kind of paraphrasing, when I saw that, he was the only kid in the locker room that was crying, I knew that I wanted to put fire breathers like Chris Zorich on that field next year in order for us to be successful. What? Again, didn't tell me this, right? Didn't say, hey man, you know, you're the impetus of what's going on here. But again, it's my contribution as a crying obviously, a crying freshman in the locker room that was holding a bag in practice. Yet somehow he was going to get me on that field because he knew the heart and desire and my passion. And so it's kind of not a funny story, but to me it's funny because it's like he never said anything about it. He never told me, you know, hey, we're going to do this, I'm going to do this. My first game against Michigan, there's a All-American offensive center, and he comes to me, calls in his office and says, hey, I just want to let you know that, you know, the center, he's talking a lot of crap about you. I'm like, what? What? It gets me fired up, right? So practice, have a great practice, whatever. In the game, I got snot coming out my nose. I'm swearing, I'm crying. And I'm sure the guy's like, what the hell was going on here? You know damn well this guy wasn't talking crap about me, but he wanted to, he was trying to find a way to motivate me, and he did. So it's kind of like, where does he knew what he could do with me. And again, I mean, it's one player's story, and there's so many out there.
Sure. One more and I'll let you go, Chris. One thing that I recently have heard players share is that he used to tell you guys, give me 4 years, I'll give you the rest of my life. How did you experience that over the last 3 decades?
Well, when you hear that from your coach, it's just another thing. It's like, yeah, you're just saying that just to motivate me, right? And you don't realize, of course, till you leave. So a couple years after I left, playing for the Bears, ask him for lunch. Coach, I just want to tell you one thing. He starts laughing. I'm like, what? He's like, I know what you're going to say. What? He's like, you should have listened more. I'm like, damn it. I mean, it's these lessons that you don't realize because he's yelling at you. You hear him every day for 4 years, and you walk out to the real world or you walk out to another team, and the concepts aren't the same. They're not goal-oriented. They're not wanting to win. Everybody's out for themselves in the pro. And you start adding this stuff up, and it's like, wait a minute. Like, I had what was special, and damn it, I wish I would have listened to everything, but your coach is yelling at you after a loss. You want to get out of there. He's telling us that Navy has the best running attack in the country. We're like, what? But we go out there, and our practices were harder than our games. But he was teaching us about life. So, this concept of, hey, you give me 4 years, I give you, it's true. But as an 18, 21-year-old kid, you don't really think about it until you leave. It's like, oh, wait a minute. So, you talk about the acronym that he had for WIN. What's important now? Yeah. I'm sure you've heard him say it 1,000 times. I mean, you talk about if the end goal is to win a national championship, what's the first thing you have to do? You have to have a good practice in freaking August. What? We want to win a national championship in now, what is it, February, March, or whatever? But it's like, what? You mean we got to have he broke it down to, and not only have a good practice, but have a good individual drill. So you think about success in life, having a family, having a business. How do I break it down to be successful? Well, we've been taught to break it down to the smallest possible way, which was having a good individual drill, now having a good practice, having a good team drill. Now, eventually, for that first week, we're going to have a good game. And oh, by the way, we had that opponent, better watch film. It's a life lesson when he wasn't trying to teach us a life lesson. And, so it's really not about the X's and O's. It was about life for him.
We've been visiting with Hall of Famer Chris Zorich, remembering Lou Holtz. Chris, always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for coming in.
Absolutely.